Hit me with it.
So John, how did you find running the Edge of the Empire?
Beyond the Rim? I
Rim.
found it really full on because it is an incredibly long game.
How many pages are there?
I don't know, but I didn't open the book many times.
Why did you decide to do 3?
Because of the nature of our group, and that we probably wouldn't get to 3 games. So I thought, and also the style of our group tends to be a little bit more action-packed and moving quickly between things and less dwelling on the technical side of things. And also, I don't think the camera viewers would really like to watch us just talk about information gathering for hours on end. So that's why I thought we could probably cram it into 3, and we did, which is pretty good.
I found that with the first couple of adventures of Carrying Crown, there was tons and tons and tons and tons of information in context setting, which is useful at the beginning of the whole series of adventure paths, perhaps, but maybe not so good for video.
Yeah, and also it's just information overload, I think. So yeah,
because definitely the second and third sessions for me were really the most enjoyable by a long way.
And it seems to be the nature of adventures is you're setting up the story, and that's going to be a bit slower by its nature. And then once you're into the story, it seems to flow a bit faster, which is what happened with us too.
And do you think you need to actually the story and being effective and caring about it and all that actually depends on that first session anyway? So the second and third sessions are good because of all that establishing. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I mean, I ideally this would be fun to run as 3 adventures, but just don't.
Did you miss much stuff out other than the information gathering?
I crammed events together, so instead of having 2 events, I made them 1 event, so things happen simultaneously rather than happening separately.
Right.
I cut out a few different encounters that were in there, but pretty much you guys did everything that they did in it. It just in a much more condensed version. So, and you didn't learn a lot of the backstory for what was going on, which you could have learned, unfortunately. Right. I mean, that is the shame, is that there's such rich backstory from Beyond the Rim, so sadly we won't go do it.
Now, I didn't feel like I was being railroaded, so how do you achieve that, considering you're actually having to theoretically follow a sequence of events in a module?
I think I was a little bit of railroading in the middle with when we got to the camp, but I don't know. I think when a path is clearly laid out for you, it probably doesn't feel as much like railroading. If the characters know where they need to go, then they don't feel like they're losing out on going in any other direction. So, yeah. So
actually, so if the motivation of the characters is clear in the direction they want to go and that's predictable, then that's fine, because you can play within character and go in the direction you need to go.
Yeah, it's choice disguised.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously we've discussed before that there's a contract between the players and the GM where the players, we all agree subconsciously or consciously, or to actually go along with the story and or contribute productively and helpfully to the story that the GM's trying to tell.
Yeah. Hopefully, that's the ideal that happens.
Right. There are moments where you don't know that you are playing against the story, and then you discover that you are.
I mean, the biggest one, isn't it, is the one where Ben's character became a traitor.
Well, when you learn about the betrayal, then it comes down to what your character's attitude towards the betrayal is, and that clearly, in our case, was leave him. He's rubbish, and then it was, he's there. It's like, well, I don't take him on the ship, and you're like, well, that actually stuffs up the rest of the whole story.
Yeah, and you know that.
Yeah,
you already know that.
So that's when the rubber hit the road.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting trait. Because it could have easily gone down. We were going to stun him and leave him to.
Which I would be fine with. I mean,
it would be great. It would have been a great adventure.
Yeah, you die. We've got a whole section to go that we will not get through because your expertise is necessary.
It'd be interesting to have some feedback, from other people. I mean, obviously these are characters we are probably going to keep playing with, and that would be a bummer for me. But then maybe there's a way of getting me back in. I like the way you brought me back in with the speeder bike, so you sort of resolved all that in the background, and I appeared there as if I'd sort of achieved heroicness.
Yeah, and that was the whole encounter of attacking, so that was a slight deviation from the plot. Because, I mean, the actual betrayal thing is only mentioned as a subplot in this, and that is not as a small option.
So it is from there?
Well, it's as an option as part of the obligations, which is what yours is, an obligation. And so I thought, well, I think I trust the group enough to be able to put one character as a traitor into the game and know that the group will stay together enough to be able to move on. And also, off camera, I did warn the group and say, look, there's going to be a character development moment. We need to make sure we move through this and we keep the story going. So I mean, that was also in the background.
And we've never ever done that before in our group, ever.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you guys watch the video back, which you'll have the luxury of, there were screamers all the way through. Saying stuff over, you know. And obviously when it's revealed, then it all makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of
well, I think that's
I really liked, actually, you did a lot of that kind of stuff, which was great. We had a couple of significant looks going across the table.
Yeah.
We do this.
That's right. So I was just saying outright, you know, I'm going to transmit this, I'm going to do this, you know, I don't want you to watch over my shoulder, which you, as you would in a normal human situation, you're interpreting that as just weirdness or privacy or whatever. And that's really cool.
Sort of obsessive.
Obsessiveness, that's right, yeah.
I mean, I think the issue in terms of those characters going on is that you will never be trusted. So that you haven't got their trust and you won't ever get their trust again.
And what a great opportunity that is, that
To
rich,
grow.
that rich kind of...
Well, it's an interesting one because it does play against why would that group stay together.
Yeah, but if the justification for his behaviour is clear enough, the Empire having
but then at the same time, if the trust isn't there, then it's like you go and rescue your family.
Yeah, I don't agree that the characters would never trust each other. I think Solo and Luke all have this sort of loose sort of loyalty that's strained by
But there's not open betrayal.
Oh, I don't know. Solo.
Well, Han Solo kind of.
Han Solo kind of does it.
Well, what? No. Well, what about Lando and Solo? There's the perfect.
Open
betrayal.
But Lando's way back is not via Solo. Lando's way back is outside of Solo.
But Solo gives him his ship to fly.
There are too many options.
I think maybe it's
flying
fair enough to
anyway.
say that for some characters they'll be able to forgive and others won't, and that is the tension of it.
It's an
Like,
interesting.
I think that
That's
would
cool,
be the
actually,
dynamic within it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe your character probably won't.
Yeah,
Forgive as quickly.
But ironically enough, you're the one who gave me my gun and gave me my
Yeah.
computer.
What does that say?
Because you thought it was tactically, you know.
Well, it was, but I mean, the fact of the matter was that if you hadn't behaved in the way that I was prescribing you needed to behave, I would have turned on you.
That's right, yeah.
So,
And that's another contract you have as players, not to just all turn on each other and to.
Yeah.
so that I mean that would have played out incredibly interestingly while everyone else is fighting Rhodians. That you and I are
That's
blasting
right.
at each other.
Yeah.
And he's a good shot.
That's right.
I wouldn't have stayed at shop. I wouldn't have stayed at. I would have come and pummeling him. He would have looked like my father as I punched his drunken visage, and I would have had boost dice all over the shop.
I love that your character betrayed his father in the earlier games constantly, and yet that same double standard.
Yeah.
Which is also another
I think the thing is that I'm undermining and sabotaging my father. I'm not betraying my father.
Well, that's to your character's mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but in actual fact, you stole his ship, and you know, and
I think
And left him for
you
dead.
left him for dead on numerous occasions.
No, I wasn't actually allowed to leave him for dead on numerous occasions.
That's true.
All these other characters, I would
given a
have.
choice.
Yeah, I would have given a choice.
Yeah.
But
I'm just saying, it's an interesting. I like that. There's those dynamics within the.
I mean,
within the characters.
from his perspective, what him and his father's relationship is not. The contract there is, in the sense that he's done crap to his dad because his dad did crap to him and drunk and gambled and was a crap father. Therefore, stealing his ship is just comeuppance and dumping him and leaving him. Whereas this one is not. There's not that backstory and there's not that. Yeah, so it's an interesting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to play out into the future going forward.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Now the idea of this is to critique the GMing as well.
Yeah. How did I go?
I think when you decided to put more of the narrative of the dice onto us in the second and third session rather than first, I thought that was much better. So I'm still struggling with these dice. There is that weird moment where we roll and there's this kind of like and there's this sort of hole, especially on video. Maybe it's not such a problem if you're playing just without being watched.
There's also the misreading. I failed.
No,
I don't. No, I succeed. Hooray!
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm, and then I think the weirdest one is when it's so unbalanced. Like
that's right.
Success, 3 disadvantage.
That's right. Tinged with every heroic act can be tinged with incompetence, kind of thing, or vice versa, which is unlike a fantasy game like the D20 system where you just succeed and it's clear. Even if you only succeed by the skin of your teeth, you still succeed because you're awesome and heroic. Whereas this is more sort of normal and there's more consequences, which is good. And I really like the role-playing opportunities.
I think that is the thing, is that we've come from a background of numerals, essentially dice rolling of D20s and things like that. And this is an entirely new system, which is a narrative-based system, which we're just going to take a lot of to get used to. I think.
Surely we can read them faster as well. I feel like we're reading them faster already.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Johnny and I read them faster because we've had one more game.
Yeah. I actually got rid of.
You actually know the mechanic.
I got rid of the setbacks and advantages. I got rid of the setbacks and advantages in the quick combat at the end, so I decided I'll just stick with hits and misses. And
I like that.
I think that was the bit where I was like, okay, if I sit there for hours trying to decipher this is not going to be much fun. So I think there's times to actually get rid of it.
And you started dropping characters immediately as well.
Yeah.
It's something you have to do, everybody. I've learned to my pain. You have to do in Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons as well. There's points where the battle turns in a certain direction. What I like to do is just to have the monster turn its back and run, or do something really tactically very stupid. And then you just lop 50 hit points off the monster, and the characters take it down like that. There's a certain amount of time where you've let the battle play out, the directions sort of become clear, and then you can just end it. And you don't need to let these things draw on to the bitter end.
Yeah.
And that was great the way you did that. It was fantastic. Especially considering it was 12, and one of our players really wanted to go home.
Yeah, they really need to go home. If it was yawning, you'll probably see it a lot.
That's right.
No, you can edit that out, surely.
Yeah. Strategically did shots.
Just cut to
Except when I go, so is it your turn? And they,
That's right.
I shoot.
It is late.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything to criticise.
I think there was a couple of bits that would have been nicer to roleplay
More time,
which were obviously in the time constraints
that's
unable to be done. And especially the moral conundrum of the betrayal was like, whoa, let's bring it all. No, apparently we can't.
I know. That was the only thing that I was sad about is that we couldn't have spent that time on that one thing.
See, we should have a screaming argument at some point. Even if it's 6 weeks on in the story, at some point it actually all comes out finally. And
it will. Yeah, I mean that's real life, isn't it? Is that those wounds aren't healed?
Sometimes that's right. Sometimes in the height of battle, you just move on.
Yeah, you just give him his gun.
Well, yeah.
Another person.
See, I mean, the interesting moment for me, frustratingly, was the beautifully laid ambush of the 4 Rhodians. That then was, clearly what was the plan was that the Nexu were going to do the job for us, and we weren't going to interrupt that, and then we were going to capture the Nexu, and then it all went.
That's right.
Which is classic us, I think.
I had a moment there of like, but as you said, we can't have this discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you get that situation at the table where you've got people who like to act spontaneously in role playing because they never get to normally in life, and then other people who really love role playing because they can plan out things beautifully, and that can be a very dangerous conflict. And it showed there a little bit.
But I think sometimes what we forget, we're supposed to be talking about GMing, but now we're going to talk about players. Is that we need to remember, if our characters can stop, they have the time, and they're all in the one, they're in close proximity. If they can stop and make a plan, then we should stop and make a plan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And in that situation, we couldn't. We'd all spread out. We were all covering the door from different angles. We had to be completely silent so we didn't draw attention to ourselves. So how can us players have a tactical conversation? We've rolled for initiative. It's Nathan's decision, and he can make that decision, and we probably shouldn't say anything at all.
So there is a counter argument to that, which we encountered with Werewolf the Apocalypse, where it's all about a pack of werewolves who have grown up together and know each other really well instinctively. Is that us as our group, we know what each other are probably going to do in any given situation. We know when one player's gone, stuff this, we're just going to jump in and do something crazy, and others that will probably want to plan it or whatever. And so there is a little bit of that. Our characters probably know each other better than we know each other's characters. If that makes any sense.
Right.
So, but I think you're right. As a general rule, that it should be how it should be done.
And the most important thing is just to note as a GM that Murray's desire to do a plan, was frustrated, and so just to take note of that and allow him or that player who's like that, allow them an opportunity to plan something beautifully.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that the plan still worked. It wasn't quite the execution, but then if you're expecting the execution of your plan to be perfect, you'll be disappointed.
And that is a GM thing. Is that
I mean, that from a playing perspective, it's like You know, you can't throw your dice and leave the table.
That's right. But see, players do. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got to all forbear each other's idiosyncrasies and attention-seeking behaviours and all that sorts of things. And as long as there's enough give and flex, then we can all cope.
Yeah, and the GMing thing with that is that a GM's role is to be able to twist that plan to make it challenging without destroying the plan completely and wrecking it. So my original thing was that yes, you had a beautiful plan. My spanner in the works was I brought in 2 Nexu. So your plan had to change, but but I didn't expect, what happened in the situation.
Yeah.
So the idea is to twist it enough to be able to make it interesting that your players are trying to think on their feet and adjust their plan, but not completely destroy
That's
it.
right, not
that's
the
a really
every single
tricky
plan,
one.
that's right.
Yeah, and that sometimes goes completely up. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's good. There's a bit of meat in your sandwich.
There you go. Thanks for watching this far into the video.
Yay!